Inside Higgsfield, there's a cinematic mode called Cinema Studio, the most powerful feature almost nobody uses. It's the one mode where you can build your own cast and sets, then carry one character through a whole video. And that's the difference between AI videos that look generated and ones that look like a real movie. So today, I'll walk you through every mode so you can actually use it. Plus, I'll show you the settings that make your video look like real film, not obvious AI. So the first thing you build is your cast, and getting a character to look completely identical from one scene to the next is usually the hardest thing in all of AI video, and I'm about to show you how to get it right every single time. So once you're logged into Higgsfield, look at the navigation bar running across the very top of the screen and click on Cinema Studio. And if you want to follow along with everything I do here, I'll leave a link to Higgsfield down in the description. So the moment Cinema Studio opens, start a new project over on the left. Now, before you generate anything at all, you need to understand the order this whole thing works in. You don't start with the video, you start by building your assets. So your characters first, then your locations, and only once those exist do you turn them into videos. So beside the generator, you'll see a toggle between image and video, and we're switching that over to image because a character is an image before it ever becomes a video. Then for the model, you want to select AI Cast, which is the model made specifically for building your characters. Normally, if you want a character in AI, you type a description into a regular image tool, you generate it, and you get one single picture from one single angle. Then the moment you try to generate that same person again in a new pose or a new scene, the face comes back totally differently, and you end up with a character who looks like a different person in every shot. AI Cast fixes that by not giving you one image at all. Instead, it builds a full character sheet, which is the same person shown three ways at once: a full body shot from the front, a full body shot from the back, and a tight close-up on the face. And the reason that matters so much is that once the model can see your character from the front, the back, and up close, it finally has enough information to rebuild that exact person in any scene later without the face drifting. Now, the way you design the character is split into two separate parts. On one side, you have the tags, and these lock in who the character fundamentally is, so the genre, the era, the ethnicity, the gender, the age, and the archetype they fit into. On the other side, you have the written prompt, and that's where you describe everything you can physically see on them: the clothing, the textures, the wear and tear, the expression on their face. So for my first character, I set the tags to fantasy, indigenous, male, 30, and the jester archetype. Then in the prompt, I describe exactly what he's wearing and how he looks, right down to a tattered patchwork coat, cracked white face paint with one eye left bare, and a completely neutral expression. Now I hit generate, and instead of one image, it gives me 4 full character sheets to choose from, and all 4 together cost me half a credit. That first one is exactly the character I had in my head, and I really want you to take in how small that half a credit is, because if you generated those same 4 images with GPT Image 2 instead, you'd be paying somewhere around 96 times more. So I look through the 4 options, pick the sheet where the face and the outfit came out strongest, and I save it as Jester. As soon as it saves, I can pull him into any scene just by typing the @ symbol and his name. Now I want to quickly build a second character as well, partly because we'll need them later, but mostly to show you how much those tags really change the result. This time, I go completely the other way with the tags. So horror, the 1900s, black, female, 30, and the caregiver archetype. And in the prompt, I describe a long, dark wool dress, a white apron stained at the hem, and a small gold cross, so someone who belongs in a totally different kind of film. So I generate again, and this time it's another 4 sheets for the same half a credit. She looks exactly like a character from an old horror film, which is precisely what I wanted. And right away, you can see how far those tags moved her from the first character. So before I've even touched a single video, I've already locked in 2 characters who will look exactly the same every single time I use them. And the only thing missing now is a location that feels just as intentional as the characters, because even a consistent cast can still look AI generated when the setting feels generic. So the way you fix that is with the second mode, Cinematic Locations, which lets you build a setting that feels like a real film set and fits the characters perfectly. And it's the same setup as before, you're still in image mode, you just switch the model over to Cinematic Locations. The difference here is that a location doesn't need a character at all. You simply describe the place you want in a prompt, and it generates the whole environment with the cinematic lighting already built in. And the important part is that every location gets saved as a reusable asset, exactly like a character does, so you're building a set you can pull into any video later, instead of generating a brand new background every single time. So for my first location, I describe a ruined medieval throne room with a cracked stone floor, shattered stained glass windows casting fractured amber light, vines creeping up the walls, and the throne itself overturned. And one thing I always add at the very end of a location prompt is the words "no people," because I want the space completely empty so I can drop my own characters into it later. I generate, and just like the characters, it comes back as 4 options for half a credit. That throne room is exactly what I had in my head, so I pick the strongest one and save it as throne room. Then I do the same for for 2 more because I want a proper set to work with. One is a long 1900s asylum corridor at night with peeling plaster walls, gas lamps mounted low and flickering, and fog at the far end. So I generate that one. That corridor came out really creepy, which is exactly the mood I'm after. Then I go underground for the last one. A vast underground crypt with rows of crumbling tombs, thick pillar candles burning at uneven heights, and a single beam of light coming down through a crack in the ceiling. Then I generate it, and that one might be my favorite of the 3. So now I save all of them so they are ready to use. So now I've got a full cast and a full set of locations, but characters and locations are only 2 of the 4 image modes in here, and the next one does something completely different. The third mode is called Soul Cinema, and this is the one you go to when you don't need a character or any reference at all. You just want a single, pure cinematic shot. So in image mode, you switch the model over to Soul Cinema. So for my first shot, I describe an astronaut in a full white NASA suit sitting alone in a 1950s roadside diner at 3 in the morning with his helmet resting on the counter, rain hammering the windows, and a neon open sign bleeding pink across the wet pavement outside. I generate. That is exactly the lonely, cinematic mood I was going for. Now I run 2 more. The first is a vintage 1970s Formula 1 car swallowed by a golden wheat field at harvest hour, with the sun sitting just above the horizon and long amber shadows cutting across the field. So I run this one too. That one honestly looks like a shot straight out of a film. Then I go the other way, with a grand piano half submerged in black floodwater inside an abandoned concert hall, a chandelier still burning above the waterline, and cold blue moonlight cutting through a collapsed roof, and I generate it. That might be the most cinematic one of the 3. So when I just want a single, pure cinematic shot with a very specific mood, Soul Cinema gets me there from nothing but a sentence. But every image so far has had the model deciding how the shot is framed, and the last image mode is the one that finally hands that control over to me. The 4th and final image mode is cinematic cameras, and this is the one that hands you the controls a real director has on set. So we're still in image mode, and we switch the model one last time to cinematic cameras. And here's what makes this one special, because on top of your prompt, you now get 4 real camera controls: the camera body itself, the lens, the focal length, and the aperture, exactly like you're setting up a physical camera for a shot. This is also the first time we get to pull our saved characters back out. So instead of describing a brand new person, I just type the @ symbol and drop a gesture straight into the shot. Then I set the camera to grand format 70mm film, the lens to classic anamorphic, the focal length to 35mm, and the aperture wide open at f1.4, and that combination alone is going to give me a wide, shallow, cinematic look before I've even written a word. Now there's one thing you have to know about this mode, because it works differently from the others when it comes to cost. Every run here costs 4 credits, which is a big jump from the half a credit that the character and location modes cost. But my workflow has a trick for that, the 2x2 grid. Instead of spending those 4 credits on one single 4K image, you turn on the 2x2 grid, and it gives you 4 images at 1080p for the exact same 4 credits. And then you pick the best one and upscale it to 4K afterward with Topaz. So for my first shot, I write the prompt for a jester standing at the edge of a frozen lake at dawn, facing the camera, with the first light hitting only his white face paint and the rest of him left in cold blue shadow. I generate the 2x2 grid, and there he is, looking exactly the same as before in every shot. Now I do the same thing for the caregiver. I drop in at caregiver, set the camera to classic 16mm film with a halation diffusion lens at f4, and write a prompt for her sitting upright in a wooden chair in an empty candlelit chapel, looking directly into the camera. So I generate that grid. That soft, hazy 16mm look is doing exactly what I was hoping for. And for the last shot, I pull both characters in at once, at jester and at caregiver together, standing 6 feet apart on a fog-covered train platform at 3 in the morning, so I run it. And the fact that both of my saved characters turn up in the same shot, perfectly consistent, is the whole reason we built them this way. But everything I've made up to this point is an image, and now it's finally time to make it move. So now we finally leave the images behind and move over to the video tab, which is where you actually direct the motion. This time, instead of image, you flip that toggle at the top over to video. And the reason this is its own thing is that the video tab gives you 3 real controls over how your shot turns out: the genre, the style, and the camera. The genre is exactly what it sounds like. You pick the kind of film you're making, so action, horror, comedy, noir, drama, and so on, and it sets the whole tone of the video. The camera settings are the same idea as the mode before. You can still choose your camera, your lens, your focal length, and your aperture, but the setting that matters most here is the style, and specifically turning manual style on. Because when you turn manual style on, you stop leaving the whole look up to the AI, and you get to write it all out yourself. The exact color palette you want, the lighting, and how the camera moves across the shot. And that one setting is the single biggest difference between a video that looks generated and one that looks properly directed. So let me show you with a straight text-to-video demo, no saved characters, nothing, just the controls. For the first one, I set the genre to action, I turn manual style on, and I write the look myself. High contrast steel blues and burnt oranges for the palette, harsh overhead sun with hard shadows shadows for the lighting, and a low tracking shot that whip pans at the peak of the action. I set the camera to a clean digital body with an anamorphic lens, then set the whole thing to 15 seconds, 21:9, with the audio turned on. And then for the prompt itself, and this is the important part, you write it out with actual timestamps. So from 0 to 3 seconds, a lone operative is running across a collapsing bridge. From 3 to 6, the bridge buckles and drops into the river below, and it carries on like that across the full 15 seconds. So I generate it. And that is a proper action sequence, cut across different shots in time, all from a single prompt. Now, to show you how much the genre and the style really change things, I run a completely different one. This time, I set the genre to horror, keep manual style on, and write a cold, desaturated green look with a single flickering fluorescent light, then a time-stamped prompt of a woman walking barefoot down an abandoned psychiatric ward corridor at 3 in the morning, and I run it. And just from changing the genre and rewriting the style, the exact same tool gives me something that genuinely feels like a horror film. So the video tab is where you stop describing a picture and start directing an actual scene. But up to now, I haven't even used one of the characters or locations I built at the start. And the next step is where everything finally comes together, where you take the exact characters and locations you saved at the very start and turn them into finished videos. So for this last part, I'm back over in the video tab. Now I'm finally going to bring in everything I built at the very start. And the way you do that is with that same @ symbol. So I type the @ and up comes my library with every character and every location I saved earlier, and I just pick the ones I want to pull them straight into the shot. For the first video, I drop in at Jester as the character and at Throne Room as the location, so he's now standing inside the exact set I built earlier. Then I set the genre to drama, turn manual style on for that warm, torchlit look, and paste in my time-stamped prompt. So I generate it.
It was never mine to begin with.
And this is the whole payoff right here, because that is my exact character, in my exact location, moving and talking in a real scene. Then I build the second one the exact same way. I pull in caregiver and asylum corridor, set the genre to horror, and write a time-stamped prompt where she walks slowly down that corridor, speaking low, all the way to the far end. So I run it.
Every door, every room, every name, I watched it happen before it happened. That is the only kind of knowing. And still I walked through.
And she's completely consistent with the character sheet I made back at the start, except now she's moving and speaking through the exact hallway I built. And for the final one, I bring both characters together, Jester and Caregiver, and drop them into Crypt with the genre set to noir. So I generate it.
You knew this would happen.
I knew. I came anyway.
And there they both are, in the same shot, in the same location, holding an actual conversation. And that is the entire thing, from a blank page all the way to a finished cinematic video, your own characters, your own locations, every single scene built inside Higgsfield. So now you know how to use every mode inside Cinema Studio, from building your own characters and locations to turning them into a finished cinematic video. But none of this is possible without the right tool to actually do it in. So if you want to start making videos like this yourself, go and sign up to Higgsfield using the link down in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.